In this lesson, we'll be exploring how to identify the meaning of a word by using the sentence or passage that the word is located in. We will also explore the different types of context clues that authors use to help readers define words. If we were asked to define the word abrogate, chances are that we might not be able to do it. However, if I put the word into a sentence, there's a high probability that we would be able to come up with a definition that is close to the meaning. When we're able to define a word based upon the sentence it's located in, it's called defining by context or using context clues. Good readers do not spend time looking up words in dictionaries. Indeed, individuals with very large vocabularies typically acquire their vocabulary through reading many books and defining words using context. Let's see if we can figure out what abrogate means based upon the context of the following sentence. King George tried to abrogate the work of the Continental Congress by repealing or canceling many of the laws that Congress enacted. This particular sentence gives some hints about what the word might be. See if you can pick them up. When I read the sentence, two words stick out to me: repealing and canceling. In my mind, I'm thinking to myself, if King George was repealing or canceling the laws that Congress was writing, then to abrogate the work must mean to prevent or stop it. I want to make sure that I've got it right, so I go back and I reread the sentence with one or both of the substitute words in the sentence to see if it works. King George tried to prevent or stop the work of the Continental Congress by repealing or canceling many of the laws that Congress enacted. It seems to work. If I were to look up the word in a dictionary, I would discover that the word abrogate means to revoke. So I wasn't that far off. I defined the word without needing to stop reading and look the word up. So why context clues? Why not just look up the word's meaning in a dictionary? Anytime we interrupt the flow of information going into our minds, whether it's due to something distracting us or stopping to look up a word in the glossary or the dictionary, we lose concentration, which impacts our comprehension. It also takes us longer to read. By using context clues, we save ourselves time. We're able to remain focused while we read and increase our working vocabulary at the same time. When we define a word based upon the sentence or passage it appears in, we actually learn both what it means and how the word is used in writing. Learning words in context is far better than learning them by trying to memorize what the definitions are. To become really good at defining unfamiliar words you encounter in your reading, it is helpful to understand that most context clues can be categorized into one of 5 different types: definitions, examples, synonyms, antonyms, and inferences. We're going to explore each one of these in more detail. Let's start with definition. This is the easiest of all the types of context clues, as the author gives you the definition to the word right after the word appears in text. For example, a haberdashery, which is a store that sells men's clothing, is becoming more and more common today. There it is, right after the word, a perfect definition. The definition context clue is often used in textbooks to help students learn necessary content words easily. The next type of context clue is examples. This is where the author will use an unfamiliar word and then provide you an example of what that word is. Take a look at this sentence, again using haberdashery. Haberdasheries, such as Joe A. Banks and Men's Warehouse, are becoming more common today. The unfamiliar word appears, then the author gives us 2 examples of what that is. I know what Men's Warehouse is. It's a men's clothing store that sells both formal and leisure wear. So I know that a haberdashery must be a men's clothing store. Typically, when this type of context clue is used, there will be a clue word or phrase used to signal that you're going to be given examples. Can you spot it? Such as is the signal phrase used in this sentence. But authors will oftentimes use for example, for instance, or including, just to name a few. Another excellent type of context clue is that of synonyms, or as it's sometimes called, restatement. A synonym is a word that means the same thing as another word. When an author uses this type of clue, he'll provide a synonym in the sentence or passage related to the unfamiliar word. This type of clue does not have a signal word or phrase to tell you that the author is giving you a synonym, so they can be a little tricky, but usually they're very obvious. Let's take a look at an example. Lou was sent to the haberdashery to find a new suit, dress shirt, and shoes to wear to his uncle's wedding. In this example, the author uses key words that often are synonymous or found in a haberdashery. Can you spot them? New suit, dress shirt, and shoes are all found at a men's store. So a haberdashery must be a store that sells men's clothing. We can also figure out, based upon the context of the sentence, that it must sell formal wear, based upon the type of clothing listed and the event that Lou is going to attend. Frequently, authors will provide an antonym, a word that means the opposite from another word, or a contrasting phrase for an unfamiliar word in the same sentence or passage to help the reader figure out the meaning. Like the example context clues, authors will typically use a signal word or phrase to tell the reader that they're doing this. These phrases are, however, but, yet, on the other hand, instead of, and in contrast, just to name a few. Let's take a look at the example. Lou's girlfriend was familiar with where to find things at the small boutique she frequented. However, she was lost trying to help Lou buy a suit at the haberdashery. We first look for a signal word which is in the sentence. In this sentence, it's however. We then have two words on either side of the signal word that are playing opposites of each other. Can you see them? You got it. Boutique and haberdashery. I know that a boutique is a store for women, so a haberdashery must be a store for men. The last type of context clue is that of inference. It is also referred to as context from the general sense of a sentence or passage. Sometimes an author will paint a picture of what a word means, but never really come out and tell you what the meaning is. Instead, we have to read between the lines and figure it out based upon all the information given. In other words, we have to infer what the word means based upon the whole sentence or passage. There are no signal words in this type of clue, and so we're kind of left to figure it out based upon the words the author does give us. Oftentimes, you will need to look at the sentence with the unfamiliar word in it, as well as the sentence before and after it. This type of context clue is very common, especially in narrative text and in essays. Let's try an example. The haberdashery was one of Lou's favorite places. He loved to shop for nice suits. The people who worked there were so kind and helpful. In this passage, we are given several clues about what haberdashery means, but it doesn't come out and say what it is. Instead, our mind must fill in the missing pieces and infer what it must be. We know it's a place, and that they must sell suits. We also know that there are people who provide customer service there. So we can infer that a haberdashery must be a place to buy suits. We're not too far off. Those are the 5 basic types of context clues. I encourage you to practice defining words in context as you read, because that's the best way of actually learning to identify the different types of context clues and becoming very proficient at defining words based upon context. Again, defining a word based upon context is the fastest and most efficient way of enhancing and enlarging our vocabularies. I hope this lesson has been informative and will help you as you encounter unfamiliar words as you read.